Good morning. Welcome to the Morning Exchange on Voicecorps Radio Reading Service. Today's program is part of our Mental Health Today series. We have a grant, Voicecorps has a grant, from the Adam H. Board of Franklin County that supports us in bringing print to life through audio broadcasting. The Adam H. Board, or the Alcohol, Drug Addiction, and Mental Health Board, helps residents find the right places to turn for affordable, quality alcohol, drug addiction, and mental health services. My name is Jeanette Chambers. I am a Voicecorps volunteer. And as our host and moderator today, I want to welcome you to Mental Health Today. I'm also pleased to welcome Mike Sheehan. Mike's also a Voicecorps volunteer and will be a co-host for today's Morning Exchange. Good morning, Mike.
Good morning.
And today we're going to talk about how to feel better and get more fit. When we hear the words exercise or get fit, we're as likely to run the other way as fast as we can, or maybe try it for a time or two, and then sit down to rest. Often we just don't stick with it. Some of us might think the endorphins, or those feel-good hormones associated with a runner's high, are found only in the grocery store. Whatever we believe, something often can get in the way. So today our guests will give us some food for thought about what we can do today and tomorrow to feel better. As always, if you have a question or a comment, we want you to call in. The Voicecorps number for call-ins is 614-274-7992. Again, that number is 614-274-7992. We really would like to hear from you. Our guests today are Kristen Piers and Jack Santora. Good morning, Kristen.
Good morning.
Hey, and good morning, Jack.
Good morning.
We're glad you're here. Let me tell you just a little bit about each of them. Kristen has many years of professional experience in deep listening and healing work. She has a private practice where she supports people to feel more comfortable in their bodies and their lives. Kristen, tell us just a couple little more things about your consulting business.
So I have worked in alternative healthcare or holistic healthcare most of my career. And I currently see people that have aches and pains that aren't going away. They may have tried lots of different kinds of healing work and doctors, and nothing is getting them all the results they want. So then they come and see me. And
Okay, so we're going to talk more about some of your services. I want to tell our listening audience a little bit about Jack. Jack studied nutrition and exercise science at Ohio State University and is an aquatics instructor, exercise physiologist at McConnell Heart Health Center. Jack, what got you interested?
Well, it's something that's kind of been deeply rooted. I just kind of fell into it at Ohio State, though. I would say that exercise and fitness has always been my background. But then when I was at Ohio State, I finally had heard about exercise science and just kind of wandered into the program. Everything kind of came naturally, and eventually I ended up at McConnell Heart Health Center as I was graduating and was lucky enough to have them offer me a position, and I've been working as an exercise physiologist ever since.
Always nice to get a job when we graduate and get
Absolutely.
out in the real world. And it's interesting to me, the two of you, don't know each other, have never met before this morning, as I understand, and yet there's so many parts of your path and your interests that really, I think, address what we're talking about today. Not only exercise, not just fitness, but feeling good, feeling healthy, and being mentally strong. So I think, unless there's another place you want to start, I think my first question is, let's assume that everybody wants to feel better. Okay? What are some of the things that you would suggest to someone who wants to feel better. I guess it kind of boils down to the question, where do we get started? How do we get started? Do we go to a gym?
Sure. I'll go ahead and get
we may
started
not be
if
able
that's
to get
okay.
to the gym, or maybe we can't afford the fees. So
Yeah.
how do we get started?
Generally, whenever I start working with someone, it's meant to be a slow process, and it really is a process. That's how I always describe it to people when they're beginning. I think a lot of people make the mistake of thinking that it just happens, that it's like all of a sudden one day I'm not doing anything, and then the next day I'm doing everything. And that's where they usually make the biggest mistake, is that they've tried to jump from 0 to 60 right away, and they're going too quickly into it. When really, if you want to see more success in what you're doing, the best way to do it is probably take it slow baby steps, one at a time. Usually beginning with your mental thought process about it. I would say I have what I call, and I tell this to my clients all the time, is the hierarchy of change. At the base of your pyramid is going to be your mindset. Just above that will be your nutrition. And then at the very top of the pyramid is your physical activity and exercise. And that's kind of in the order of importance.
So it's a process. And I think I heard you say that it begins with mindset.
Yep, absolutely.
Is that a starting point for you, Kristen? Or
Yeah.
Well, how would you expand or
So
differentiate that?
when we talk about mindset, I ask a person, what specifically do you want? And they might say, well, I want to feel better. And I say, okay, better how? Like, what specific result do you want? Well, my knee really hurts. It would be nice if my knee didn't hurt. Okay, so how would you like your knee to feel? So they've said something very specific. And then I say, so you don't want it to hurt, so what really do you want? Well, I want it to feel comfortable again. I want my knee to feel comfortable. I want to be able to move freely, easily. So that becomes our first goal. And then I use the skills that I have to help them create a plan on how they can help their knee to feel comfortable again. So it goes from, well, I feel really bad and I want to feel better, to, well, my knee hurts. I want my knee to feel comfortable and at ease so I can move. And from there, we can work. And that leads into exercise, that leads into diet, that leads into relaxation techniques. There's many paths we can go down once we have that finite goal.
So the person, as you're approaching this eventual goal setting and developing a plan to get there, it's what does the person want? What do they want to be able to do?
It could be what they want to be able to do. We want it to be as specific as possible.
And why do we want it specific?
Well, I think Kristen makes a very good point, is that people come in with such a generalized concept of what fitness, of what healthy is, but they don't really bring it into what it means for themselves often. And that's where it can get more confusing, is because you're not really setting such a specific goal to begin with, or you just don't really have a good concept of where you want to be headed. So if you have no direction, how do you know where to go from there or who to ask for help?
I'd like your reference to baby steps. I always think of the movie, What About Bob? Bob was played by Bill Murray. His psychiatrist was played by Richard Dreyfuss. And Bob had mental health problems. He couldn't get out of his psychologist or psychiatrist. I'm sorry, I just don't remember his role in that movie. But he couldn't get out of the office. And what did the docs say? Baby steps. Baby steps. Take baby steps.
You talk about baby steps. What do you both find as the driving force when you see people coming in? Is it where you have a particular injury? You talk about the knee. Was my knee hurt, or did I hurt it, or whatever? Or do you find people that it's time of life where I really got to do something about myself? Or is it, gee, I've got some other health issue that is the driving force to bring people to see you? Anybody?
For the people that come see me, they're usually worried, frustrated, and hopeful. They've looked for a long time, but they still have hope. That's the driving force. They know that there's got to be a solution somewhere, with someone somewhere. And they are ready to devote their time and their resources to figuring it out.
I gotcha.
And I would say from my end, the word that comes to mind for me is probably brokenness. And whether it's from a physical aspect or even just deeper, where it's maybe psychologically they're broken, their heart's hurting, something along those lines, I believe that brokenness drives them in. It might be a little bit of fear behind it as well. They've received something from a doctor. There's something that has come up all of a sudden where they know that they need to do something about it, so then all of a sudden it becomes a fear-based driven reaction to it.
How do potential clients or people in general find you? Is there consistency in the methodology? It doesn't sound like there is, but is there some consistency where they can pick up the phone book or Google it and say, how do I find the right person? Because it seems like there's so many different ways you can go.
Yeah, there are a lot of different ways you can go, especially with the people I work with. They have very interesting conditions going on. It's not just knee pain. It's knee pain that hasn't responded to medication or surgeries or shots. So people find me through referral. Their chiropractor, their doctor, their physical therapist, or sometimes on the internet. But the common factor among people, when you have something going on and you can't quite find the right practitioner, is you keep looking. You be curious and you keep looking on the internet, you talk to people. And what I find is that when you have that hope and then faith that you will end up where you need to be, you'll get there. It just takes time and patience.
And resources.
And resources. And go ahead.
Well, I was just thinking the example we've been working with is a physical pain. Maybe we could, I guess my related question is the relationship or the interaction or influence of emotional pain. I'm thinking of some of those social stressors. Earlier we talked about getting older. We talked about being less mobile, but it may be related to loss of a job or loss of a spouse or a parent, the kinds of things that cause emotional pain. And do you see those kinds of influences related to what brings you new clients or concerns from the people that you work with?
Well, sure, I would say, and I don't think it necessarily just brings new clients, but I think you can see it in new clients coming in. But I've seen it with people that I've been consistently working with. There's a clear life change like that where all of a sudden we're making great progress, and now the next day later, maybe they're not, they don't want to say what's happened or they haven't quite opened up to me, but when they do come about and they're able to just talk to me freely about what's going on in their lives, I'm actually able to understand a little bit better of how we might need to manipulate the workout, because you have these outside stressors that are just adding to your life at that point in time. Maybe it's not good for us to actually put you through a stressful workout on top of that. And if we do, there's the potential that you might get some more sickness down the road because of the over-accumulation of stress at that point in time. So maybe if there's a very big stressful event in your life, we might choose to do a lighter workout that next day as long as we know. So it kind of can even change the type of workout that you're doing just based off your emotional stress that's adding up in life.
Your example really brings to mind something that I've read recently, and I totally believe it's true. We have to be open and let people know what we're feeling and what we're concerned with. A recent article that I was reading had to do with the importance of a patient who goes to a physician or a healthcare provider, not telling them what's going on, because the doc may or may not really need to address the knee pain, but hear what else is going on in that person's life, because we know that emotional stress can influence our physical health and well-being as well. Because it's acceptable to talk about physical ailments, but we are not a country in many instances, and our mental health organizations tell us all the time how hard they work to overcome what is referred to as a stigma of mental health. If somebody's thinking about suicide, we want to know about it. We want to hear them talk about it. But we don't very often ask the important questions, and it's being open. That's part of our responsibility as a client, as a patient, is to let people know who might be able to help us and influence our well-being. So I didn't mean to go off on an editorial there. It sort of sounded like it. Shut me up, Mike.
Quiet down, will you, Jeanette, please?
Okay.
Could we kind of switch it just for a moment, anyhow, and talk a little bit about one of the highlights, I think, of both of your endeavors is nutrition. And I think we as a society are finally at least looking at nutrition and the importance of it. And if you could get into that a little bit about how you deal with that with your clients, or what your thoughts are in that vein. Kristen?
Okay. I want to just say one bit about the last question, and I can talk about nutrition as well, is just about everybody I work with had a very stressful event occur before they developed their physical condition, their pain, their whatever's going on. So that goes into brain health, mental health, and nutrition, because you need the right nutrients, vitamins, minerals, to feed your brain, your hormones that take care of the rest of your body. And stress makes your body use more of those vitamins and minerals. So that could be an emotional stress, that can be a life stress. It makes your heart pump faster. Someone yells at you, your heart pumps faster, circulation moves through your body more or less, and then makes toxins go out, and toxins hurt the cells, in very, very simple terms. So especially during stressful times, it's important to eat things that are fruits and vegetables. And if you only have access to something canned or frozen and you don't have fresh, that's okay. We do the best that we can. And from there, notice that, yes, you will want to eat a lot more junk food when you're stressed. But that's a very short-term fix. I'm sure Jack can talk about that too, sure, and how he talks about his clients with their physical activity.
Sure, yeah. When I start working with nutrition with clients, it's usually after I've been actually working with them just on the exercise portion a little bit first, because it's not always the easiest thing to approach with people. It's not the first thing that they want to hear that they have to change. So what I do is I actually let people start to work out with me. We'll give them 2 weeks to settle in, get used to my personality, get used to who they're working with and comfortable with me. And then I might start to just bring up in conversation during our workouts, so what are you doing with your nutrition? Is there anything that we can do? Because that's really where they're going to make their progress. We can beat them to death with a workout, but it's not going to make the huge difference in the long run. There's proven studies that when nutrition is paired with the exercise, those are the best results that we get. So we talk about nutrition in a slow process. I ask, are you drinking enough water? Most people that come to me are actually malnourished. Now, from what our society thinks of as malnourished, they might think of an African child whose stomach is bloated because they're not getting enough calories. Well, we definitely get the calories. We don't get the nutrients, though, in our food. And oftentimes it's the wrong balance that's throwing people off in their diet overall. They're not eating enough protein, they're not getting enough water, and they're certainly not getting enough vitamins and minerals like Kristen was mentioning. So I find that to be a huge problem with a lot of the people I work with.
If I could continue with you for a second there, Jack, you had mentioned earlier, outside of our conversation here, I thought a very interesting thing that you offer, a computerized situation where you deal directly with the individual client.
Sure, yeah. So it's becoming a lot more popular now, and it's just basically online coaching. What we do is we have a portal where we work directly with the individual on the other end, and we're providing them direct nutritional programming, first of all, to try and get them started. And then we can also provide an exercise program with that, where once we provide that to them, then from there, we provide them the support and basically the manipulation to the program that it might need for their personal needs.
Well, I think so many of our particular audience have difficulty in planning and getting to the gym to see their trainer or to have a conversation, and it's not always convenient for the trainer to take a phone call. But where you have the situation where you go online, and that can be responded to at basically any point in time during the day, back and forth, I think that is something that might be a great advantage to our audience.
Sure. I mean, it's something that's not. I mean, the access is a lot more. There's more availability now. I mean, I can work from my cell phone. I can work from an iPad. I can work from a computer. It's very quick back and forth, especially if it should need be in that case. So there is that quick response that we can kind of just say, hey, well, if something came up, you can even shoot me a text, and then I'll be able to respond to you that way. So there's still that interaction, and you're still building a relationship with the person, and they could be on the other side of the world, and we're doing this at the same time. So it is really neat that there's just that access now, and it's becoming more popular.
And for our visually impaired listeners or people who are blind, the advances in technology to make various apps and access available through different devices is expanding all of the time. Some of our listeners, some of you out there, you can call in. Remember, you can call in. They're listening through audio streaming on personal computers. So in addition to FM radio for our listeners and their receivers, we do know that the technological advances are considerable. We're going to be taking a break very shortly, so I want to we'll kind of wrap up talking about nutrition, or maybe not wrap up, but any final thoughts about the relationship of nutrition to feeling good and feeling better. I'm glad you mentioned the water. I'm a great believer in water as an appetite suppressant, but what are some easy choices that we might make if we're thinking about a donut? What would be a nice alternative?
We're always thinking about a donut.
I know, and it's hard to think of alternatives, but we need to.
If you're thinking about a donut, the best thing is to distract yourself. I have to think about, why do I want that donut? Do I want that donut because I'm bored? And be real honest. Yeah, I'm bored. That's why I really want that donut.
Yeah, boredom's big.
So if I recognize I'm bored, then I deal with, well, I'm bored. What would have a longer term effect than a donut would? And
2 donuts.
Yes, a much longer term effect until I'm stuffed, right?
Okay, we're going to cancel
Causes
this
the problem.
conversation right now.
I could call a friend. I could call a friend. I could look up something on the internet. I could join a chat room on the internet and talk with people there. So finding human connection, or finding a connection into my body that's comfortable, might be helpful. And I have a lot of techniques for that perhaps we can discuss later.
Deep breathing? Sure. Stretching?
Deep breathing, stretching. I I have a lot of things that will pique my curiosity and generate happiness for longer than food. So, and for me, it's usually connecting with a friend, taking quiet time, reading a book, going and sitting outside, and even listening to the birds can make a big difference for me.
Okay, we're going to take a break now. We'll be back shortly, and we will continue talking with Kristen Pierce and Jack Santora. And Mike, we'll be back.
From Rebuilding Together Central Ohio. Wednesday, Dick Lucky with Duty, Honor, Country. Thursday, the Blindness and Disability. Friday, Jim Sherritt, the Voicecorps Critics Center. Radio Reading Service.
My son Casey was a bright, fearless 20-year-old with a boundless future ahead of him. But in the blink of an eye, he was gone. While out riding a skateboard, Casey fell. He was not wearing a helmet. Our whole family wishes he was. It could have saved his life. I'm Captain Kevin Raffelli of the San Mateo Police Department. Parents, encourage your kids to strap on a helmet every time they jump on a bike, scooter, or skateboard. Think of my son Casey and use your head. Put a helmet on. It could save your life.
A message from the Consumer Product Safety Commission.
Hello, this is Todd Devers inviting you to join me for Your Leisure on Mondays at 2 p.m. with a repeat every Tuesday at 2 a.m. I'll be reading articles typically from Esquire, GQ, Vanity Fair, and the New York Times Sunday Magazine. Hear about world events, entertainment, and politics. Remember that Monday at 2 p.m., Tuesday at 2 a.m. for Your Leisure, right here on Voicecorps.
Jeanette Chambers. I'm your co-host, along with Mike Sheehan.
I'm still here.
Still Mike is here. And our guests are Jack Santora and Kristen Pierce. So Kristen's going to tell us a little bit about visualization to get started with. Is that how I want to look or what I see along the way? Or what do you mean by that, Kristen?
Well, visualization can be how you want to look or how you want to feel. It starts in your mind. As I spoke about earlier, instead of saying, I just want to feel better, or we could say, I just want to look better, we could say, and we could make it more specific. I want to be able to think more clearly. I want my knee to work. I want to see myself in that bikini, if that's what you want. You begin creating pictures in your head by saying what it is you do want. In Jack's case, what do people say to you?
Well, I think generally, like I said before, people always come in with this concept of what they want to see. And I don't know that it's fully developed, though. And I think it's developed by the wrong things. I think it's developed by TV. I think it's developed by magazines. So they have this visualization of themselves of a completely different body type in a lot of cases. It's somebody who's...
I'm a 16 and I want to be a 4.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, so there's a realization. I mean, I'm 5'6" and I weigh 150. I'm not going to be a linebacker for the Ohio State Buckeyes anytime soon. Different body types are going to dictate a little bit about how your body's able to develop and even how we're able to use different nutrients with our bodies. So we can learn a lot from the body type. But I think they have this unrealistic visualization because it's molded by the wrong things. And they don't have any guidance in that when it's, first being developed. They just come in with this concept. So you have to kind of dig into that with people and have them start to understand more about them, their bodies and who they are and who they could become or what is possible for them.
So if you're going in baby steps or you're learning your ABCs, there's a place to start and a place to break down where you want to be to what's realistic, what's reasonable, and how do we get there. So
yes, what's realistic, what's reasonable, and how do we get there? And so beginning to, I start with pieces of the body. So somebody might say, I want my shoulder to feel better. And I'll say, okay, if it's your right shoulder, take your left hand and put your left hand on your shoulder. and I want you to feel the skin under your fingers through your clothes. And I'll have them close their eyes and have them feel it. And they're like, really? That's it? And I say, okay, now I want you to imagine that you're feeling the muscles under the skin. And what I'll notice is their breathing will get a little bit slower. And I can tell they're really feeling something they haven't felt that's different than the pain. And then I'll say, I want you to feel those bones in there. And imagine that they're hard. They've touched bones before, usually, if they eat meat and there's bones. So I would say, feel the bone. Now imagine the cushioning on the ends of the bones, because there's a bouncy cushioning. And I'll say, you know what a balloon feels like. Feel for that bounce in there. And I help them, this type of visualization helps them begin connecting into their joint in a positive way, a way that they could do at home. And I tell them to do this every night as they're going to sleep in an area of their body that hurts, whether it's a joint or it's just the middle of their thigh that cramps. Say, put your hand on it. I want you to feel the skin. I want you to feel the muscle. I want you to feel the bone and notice the differences. And I try to get them curious about what's happening in their body and more connected. And that's where we start in visualization, is through the imagination and through touch to facilitate the imagination. And as they relax, it begins to tell their body to connect into that part in a new way, a positive way, rather than one that ouch, 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 which just makes them tense and anxious and facilitates more of a problem. I want to facilitate less of a problem. So relaxation, positive connection equals healing.
So with visualization, we use our imagination
Yes.
and the sense of touch to be more familiar with whatever it is that we're exploring.
Yes.
Now, I'm going to make a leap, and you can tell me to shut up again, Mike. What about difficulty sleeping? Can I visualize myself to sleep?
Yes. A lot of my people fall asleep while they're doing this exercise. Sleeping is one of my personal favorite things to practice for visualization, because sleeping has been difficult for me in my life. And I've noticed that the bigger one has a toolbox of techniques for supporting sleep, the better it is. Because have you noticed that some nights you can't sleep because your brain keeps going, and other nights you can't sleep because your toes keep wiggling, and other nights it's something else entirely. So it's a different technique for the different problems. But just this technique of feeling into an area of pain or just into any area of your body, what I found is sometimes it cuts through the thoughts and the agitation, and you just kind of drift away.
A type of distraction, perhaps?
Mm-hmm. As be asked differently, please.
By focusing on one thing, the busy mind, it's hard to put your hands on your head and say, mind, be still.
Right.
But if I touch my thigh, maybe I will be distracted from the thoughts of my mind because I'm looking at an opportunity to relax the muscle in my leg.
Yes. It gives your mind something else to do. Minds that don't have enough to do spin and spin and spin on the same thoughts.
Interesting.
And I've had people put one hand on their head and one hand on their hip, and I say connect the dots, head to hip. And that helps too, because we start at the head, we go somewhere else. And then, okay, now go to your knee after that. And it kind of tickles their imagination, because they're like, I have not tried that before. That's kind of interesting. And if you're really willing to give up the thoughts that keep circling in your head, this does make a difference.
And when the mind is so full of thoughts, can that be scary? Is that a fear for some people? Do you see fear as relating to this in any way, Jack?
Sure, absolutely. I think sometimes, when our mind isn't settled, we're either at war with ourselves or there's something else that's going on around us that's affecting our mental health at that point in time. If we're truly at peace, our mind has the ability to just be still. We're not thinking, we're not moving, there's no action to it at that point in time. One thing that I really find helps people get to sleep is when they focus on just their breathing even. If you focus on taking deeper, more relaxing, more lung-filling breaths, that in itself is going to be enough to take whatever you're thinking about and put it off to the side. Because when we're just sitting here breathing right now, even though our bodies are capable of doing each breath without us thinking about it, that doesn't mean that it's a nice, deep, quality breath. So sometimes it helps to just slow down, fill the lungs, and really feel everything that is expanding around the lungs, the rib cage, feeling how deep of a breath you can take, and then that slow exhale or that release air after, just that feeling. It's almost like when we sigh. It's our way of just kind of relieving ourselves at that point in time. But this is to a deeper extent. We're taking a deeper breath, we're filling the lungs further, and it's just going to help circulate more oxygen through our body.
It almost sounds as though we're on the edge of meditation. Do either of you see that or use that in your practices?
Yeah, absolutely. I encourage people to, whether they want to call it meditation, whether it's prayer, I think it's just a time of reflection. One, so you can be more in tune and more aware with what you're feeling and what's going on, whether it's emotional feelings or physical feelings. It doesn't matter, either one. Like we said earlier, they both affect our body and our overall health. So having that time, whether it's 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, whatever you can put into it. And personally, I like to spend some time in the morning with prayer because it's how I start my day. I mean, if I get off on that right foot right there and have my head in the right position, I'm going to have a better day than if I don't get that same opportunity. So there's kind of that link to just how I'm starting my day and how I'm feeling from the very beginning and recognizing it from the very beginning of the day.
Being in touch with yourself.
Absolutely.
It's so interesting what our Western medical society has started to accept as either treatments or preventative measures. I believe some of the local hospitals now have alternative medicines in their facilities, acupuncture, things like that were taboo, were the horrible things 20 years ago. They now have accepted as partners. And maybe we're getting to the point where our health is more addressed from a preventative standpoint as opposed to, I hurt, I have to go see the doctor now. Let's try to prevent things. Is that what we're trying to do?
Well, we're trying to prevent things. Like meditation, I also get up in the morning and spend quite a bit of quiet time. And I have to say, it helps me feel much more settled and able to cope with whatever my day brings. There's a recent choice I made. We like stories. Like my clients love stories, so I'll share a personal story. I had a lot of life changes, and I was very stressed all the time, even though I know how to relax. It's a tough thing. And so I would stay in bed until I had to get up to go to do my first activity every day. Just making the choice of I'm going to get up by 7:30 a.m., no matter when my day starts, has brought a sense of peace. Because 7:30 gives me at least an hour to sit and be quiet in the morning. Do my prayer, do my reflections, my reading, whatever it is that's just for me before I give my time to the house, to my family, to my clients. And like we talked earlier, going from I want to feel better to, well, how? I want to feel more in control. Well, how? I'm going to choose to get up in the morning at a time that I say rather than my life says. And just that simple choice has led to me feeling much more in control and relaxed as my day has gone on. And it is preventive, but I want to say if you feel sick and you're having lots of problems, meditation doesn't have to be preventive. It can actually help you fix whatever is going on, as well as massage and acupuncture and exercise and diet. It is preventive, but even once you're sick, these things might be real drivers in what help you get well.
I would say that definitely there are huge signs of our overall nation just pushing toward the preventative side, as you were mentioning. I believe I've even heard of some insurance companies now paying for people's gym memberships in certain cases. I mean, if that doesn't tell you that it's headed that direction, it's pretty clear that we're going that way. So I would say that there's definitely a big push in that direction as far as preventative health measures overall. One thing I'd like to add to what Kristen was saying is that the habits that we have, we are habitual creatures, and sometimes it's really difficult to kind of fight against these habits that we've built up with for maybe a number of years now that we've just kind of settled into, and it's become comfortable for us. I find that when we're trying to make a change, whether it's something like doing meditation or prayer in the morning, that if you tie it with something that you're already doing, even if it's just a small thing, so after I brush my teeth, I will meditate for 10 minutes, 15 minutes, whatever it might be. If it's something that you already do and you tie it to, there's been studies that prove that that's how our habits change. The smaller we can tie it to something that we already are doing, the more likely we are to continue with that habit in the long run. So just making it tied to something we're used to doing.
What are some resources that you could recommend for our listeners if they're not to the point where they say, well, my knee doesn't, I don't have a knee that hurts, but I'd kind of like to do a self-checkup on if I'm eating properly or if I'm, what are some resources that John Q. Public can go to give them some information on this type of thing?
If somebody's curious about meditation, they could go to YouTube and type in meditation. And there are lots of videos that people explain meditation, will lead you through a meditation. I have my own videos that someone could look up that will take them through a very general meditation that lasts, I think, 5 minutes. So something short that you'll learn and you can hear and see if you're able to see. YouTube's a great resource.
I would agree. The funny thing is, Kristen mentions the videos. My wife and I do a yoga video 2 nights a week from YouTube. We just get on there, and usually it's right before bed, so we just want to do something that's relaxing, and it's just getting us moving a little bit. But it also helps us go to sleep at night. But we do 2 yoga videos a night, or Monday or Sunday and Wednesday are our nights that we do it. So we do it 2 nights a week, and those are just kind of good resources that you can find. One that I would recommend if you're looking for more nutritional information is Precision Nutrition. They put out great information, and it's actually a group that I have my certification through. So you can just sign up. Doesn't matter. You're not paying for anything, any service, and it's just every so often you'll get some emails on some really quality information. They even put out infographics, so if you don't like to read, you could even look at the imagery of it, and they do have them so you could listen to the articles as well. So even if you're not able to read the articles, you'd be able to listen through what they're putting out.
So again, we're going to our great state of technology that is really, really helping us in our lives on a day-to-day basis.
Sure.
Which is a neat thing.
Well, I'm going to change the gear just a little bit because I love all the resources you mentioned. And I also thought of the National Institutes of Health, which you can look up anything from health, wellness, alcoholism, drug addiction, mental health disorders, WebMD, which is another wonderful resource. But I'm also thinking about, I'm sitting at home, and I'm listening to the radio, and I'm sitting, and I'm by myself. My phone just got disconnected, so I can't call a friend. What can I do? I'm bored. How can I visualize myself getting more activity? I'm thinking baby steps. I'm thinking, what if I stood up and walked to another room?
Yes, stand up.
Sat in a different chair.
Yeah, absolutely. I would say if you're capable of getting up and even just walking outside, going to your backyard, take a walk around the house. If it's, if that's a big step for you right there, then be happy that you took that step in the first place.
And I haven't been outside for a while without anyone. That's scary.
Sure. So you're going to be a little bit afraid. Unfortunately, we have these fears. One thing that I've kind of talked with people about is something I call the scarecrow theory. So picture this. You got a field filled with corn, okay, and you're the farmer. So you're going to go ahead and deter all the crows from coming in and getting your corn there or whatever you have planted. What I do is I put up, since I can't be out there the whole time guarding the corn, I put up a post, put a broomstick through on the other direction, put my shirt on him, put a hat on him. It looks like a farmer from the distance, but if you get closer to that, it's just something that's fake, and it's just something that, from a distance I perceived as a real threat to me, or something that stood in my way. As you get closer to that scarecrow, you might realize that it's just fake. It's something that was there to deter you at the time. It's something that, maybe if I just take one step closer to it, I might be able to realize that it's something that I don't have to truly be concerned with as much as I thought I did. So sometimes it really is just taking a small step forward. And once you do that, you'll see momentum build. You build confidence in your abilities. A lot of the people that come to me, unfortunately, when I say they're broken, part of that is just they're so beaten down that there's no confidence in them anymore. Part of my job is just to restore the confidence in their ability to do these things. Simple movements, that our bodies are designed to do in the first place. We're just kind of losing that because of just the confines of fear holding us back.
You're right. Life can become like a cage. It's the confinement of fear, and to know it's scary. And one thing we can do as we know that technically maybe that thing isn't going to hurt us, but we're still scared, is put your hands on your heart and inhale and exhale and feel your heartbeat. And as you sit at home, begin thinking about that thing that's really scary. Just think about it for a second. Feel your heartbeat. And stop. Then just say, good job. And let yourself do something you enjoy, even if it is eating a donut. And then later in the day, come back to that fear. Put your hands on your heart. Inhale, exhale 2 or 3 times this time. Say, good job. And then reward yourself, perhaps with a piece of carrot or whatever you do to reward yourself. But it's, baby steps is whatever you can do. And if you can't walk, you can sit in your chair and you can move the part that does work. If that's a finger, you can move it up and down and all around. And you can have finger aerobics until you can move your hand or your toes or your ankles. Move what does work from a sitting position until something changes and you can move more of yourself. You can always do something. If it's not your body, move in your mind.
I found some, they call them inspiring quotes for healthy living. One of them is a vigorous 5-mile walk will do more for an unhappy but otherwise healthy adult than all the medicine and psychology in the world. Now, I'd just like to rewrite that. A vigorous, or a 5-minute walk will do more.
Yeah, if you haven't walked for 5 seconds in a row, do 5 seconds. I mean,
Baby steps.
It really is. You want to set yourself up for success. A lot of times we set ourselves up for failure because we reach so long and so far. We have these huge goals in mind, which is great. You can have this overall objective goal of, I want to lose 50 pounds. Well, you're not going to do it all in the first day that you've just worked out. You have to make that recognition, and it's going to start with, well, maybe I'm losing 2 pounds a week, or maybe I'm just losing a pound a week, or maybe it comes down to the skill of me just eating, 250 calories less a day, or 50 calories less a day.
Or 2 carrots instead of a donut.
Whatever you need to substitute to start to make that progress. But you have to continue to do that then. So once those 2 carrots become natural to you to have, maybe we can make 2 carrots and a tomato, or, whatever it might be. But there's always got to be that progression to it as you start to build on. Otherwise, you're going to become stagnant again, and now we're just stuck at a different position in the road.
And making it a habit, building it into your new daily structure.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Tying it together.
Both of us are very skilled in these techniques of, set a goal, achieve a goal, reward self, and look at your progress. Like, look, 2 days ago you could walk to 1 room. Now you can walk to 2 rooms. Tomorrow, let's shoot for 3 rooms. It's baby steps.
Baby steps.
Baby
I think
steps.
that Kristen makes a very good point there. Is just a lot of times we get so focused on our end goal, and we have this tunnel vision where we're just looking straight ahead, but we never actually look back at the progress that we have made. So sometimes that's just something to do to reward yourself in there as well.
Well, we've had a really interesting conversation. I feel like I should stand up and move. We're about out of time, so I'd like to thank our guests, Kristen Pierce and Jack Santora, and co-host Mike Sheehan, and also our production staff of Voicecorps, and also the Adam Age Board for their support of this program. We are Voicecorps, your audio access to the world. We wish you well. Get moving. Eat a carrot. And again, I'm Jeanette Chambers, a Voicecorps volunteer. I thank you for tuning in to Mental Health Today on the Morning Exchange. And we'll be back in a couple weeks with more topics related to mental health today. Some of the programs that we've got scheduled for the future are the community conversations that have been taking place among a number of mental health groups. We talked about mental health first aid a couple weeks ago, and we'll be talking about suicide prevention, opiate addiction, and a whole variety of things relating to making us feel better, get stronger, not only mentally but physically. And once again, we always want you to call in. Just call in. Ask to talk to Carolyn or Sherry. Leave a comment about a question for a future program. And that number, if you want to call in, is 614-274-7992. 614-274-7992.
That's it.